What happens when the wound that shaped your childhood quietly writes the story of your entire life? When James McKenna's mother disappeared into depression, two young children were left to raise each other, and the loneliness of that silence followed him into adulthood, repeating through relationships that kept ending in the same way. At rock bottom, he discovered something unexpected. The lowest point in your life isn't the end of the story. It might be the foundation for the life you're meant to build. And before we begin, if you're here because you're seeking truth, healing, and transformation, make sure to subscribe and share this episode with someone who's ready for their own awakening. Every conversation is here and meant to inspire your journey and remind you you're not alone. Welcome, James. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much, Carolyn, for having me. I've been looking forward to this for weeks.
Okay, me too. Me
Yeah,
too. I look forward. I love doing this, so I look forward to all of mine. So thank you.
good.
Definitely, this is going to be nice. This is going to be fun. So, can you go a little deeper into what you've lived through and how that experience shaped the work or perspective you bring into the world today?
Yeah, I was writing about this, preparing for this interview today, and just kind of thinking back through. And I remember going back to early in my childhood, back into when I was 5 or 6. Um, the impact of my father trying to make me into what he wanted me to be, and
Mm.
how that kinda shaped me as much as my losing kind of my mother to depression. And I wanna be clear though, as we go through this, that I'm not dishonoring my parents. I'm not saying they were bad people at all. My father in particular, who was he was really rough on me, but, and he kind of shaped me, and I have in turn been rough on people as well, and I have to own that. So that's kind of the beginning of things, and I can share particular stories, but that is the kind of overarching narrative.
Yeah, if you wanna share one of your stories, that would be helpful. Now, what I the reason I asked that is because my intention on this, podcast for my audience is so they can hear your story, and I'm sure someone will connect with your story, and it will help them know that they're
Mhm.
not alone in theirs, especially if it's similar. So
Yeah.
pick one and, just share it. That's the whole point.
Okay. Well, one is my dad wanted me to be a star at something, and so he built me up. First, it was trumpet, which he knew how to play, and thought, never got as good as he wanted to be, and so he wanted me to be the one who was, the star in that. And I never really liked the trumpet. He made me practice. I was, this is 6, 7, probably 7, 8 years old, and so it wasn't a conflict exactly because when you're small, everything is normal. Whatever's
Mm.
happening to you, that's normal. And, I had nobody outside my family who was saying, "Well, that's actually kind of strange." And, yeah, I wish I would have had that. So the trumpet didn't work out because I just wasn't doing what he wanted me to do. But, then I, by chance went skating with some friends, figure skating, ice skating. And, I really cottoned to that, just kinda really picked up on that, and he, of course, picked up on it as well, and so soon I was taking lessons and, getting better, truly getting better, but, he was already putting expectations on me, and by the time I was, like, 10, 11, 12, I was gonna be in the Olympics, and, that's just how it was gonna be. Yeah. Yeah, so that he was putting that on me. And then I wasn't fulfilling his expectations in that in school. I mean, I test very well, so I got scholarships, and, he would just be ripping on me because I wasn't, achieving what he wanted me to achieve, and so building up and tearing down, building up and tearing down. Yeah. that was a constant struggle for me, and, that has left me I'm not a person who builds up and tears down, but I can lose sight of people, a person as a person, and kind of see them not as a tool, not that bad, but not notice when I'm, being unkind or, not paying attention, being not well, sometimes even cruel, and I just, all I can do is regret because I see these things in hindsight. I don't see it, as it's happening.
Interesting. And I'm learning something right now. And I did have, well, first, let me share. My dad was very similar, and I ended up joining. See, here's where stories kind of connect, right? I ended up joining the army because he was in the army and he had these expectations of me to move up in the ranks because he never got high up where he wanted to be. So he always, like, when I was little, he did have these, I was never good enough in school for him or whatever, and then when I joined the military, I never went up in rank quick enough for him, or I didn't do it the way he wanted me to do it. So I feel you. I totally get that. I get it.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
I appreciate you telling me that because as you were saying, I wanna put my story out there. Hearing your story also helps me. So,
Yeah.
thank you
Yeah,
for
so just take a deep breath. We're all human here. That was the other piece. It's like, we didn't come here to be, and that's the challenge. Is like, I don't know how old you are. My dad's generation was from so I'm 61. So he was back, what are the baby boomers, I guess he was a baby boomer.
Mhm.
And the expectation of baby boomers was wrapped around survival. And I've learned that in my own life. And so when we're kids, we go through these things with these parents. I'm going to assume he was in that generation. Was he in that?
He was born, in 1929, so
Okay.
he was actually kind of part of the greatest generation, as they call it.
Right. Okay. So he was just before. Yeah, my dad was born in 19 well, my dad was born in 1930, so never I don't know how that works. But anyway,
Okay.
the point is they went through wars, there's survival, there's a
Mhm.
bunch of survival stuff. So when they raise children, they raise it from that space. And I'm just going to go ahead and share what I've learned since you're still experiencing some of the things from that. And maybe that'll help someone to kind of hear you and recognize, the things that I've also gone through or whatever. But basically what happens in survival is they want you to be better than them because they have this feeling that they weren't good enough. So they want their child to be better. Well, back in those days, um it was always about putting fear in and anger in to the child instead of nurturing. They didn't know
Mhm.
how to nurture us, you know?
Mhm.
And so they put all this other stuff on us in their mind. Like, I found out my dad, remember what I said earlier about me, my grades weren't that good when I was going through high school, right? And my dad was like, "You're not that great of a student." And I'm like, "Hey, okay, thanks. I got C's. I don't care. It didn't get me that stuff didn't get me anywhere anyway." But what's interesting is later on, I was going through his filing cabinet after he had died, and I found his report cards from high school,
Mhm.
and he had C's and D's on them. And I'm just sitting there and I broke down crying because I was like, you know, he was just trying to get me to do better than he did. That's where I learned that from. And it was like, holy crap. So all this time,
Yeah,
you've been telling me how not good enough I am when you felt the same way. You
right.
Yeah,
That's a
right.
very moving story.
Yeah, thank you. And it's
Yeah.
just, I feel like it helps people to understand it's not like we can be so angry at our parents, but there's also good sides to them that we don't even know about because they wouldn't share it.
Mhm, mhm,
Who we are, the best of us is still them,
mhm.
you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, so it's it, going back to the human part. We're
Mhm.
human. If they knew that, then we would know that, but we don't. So we're taught you can't make mistakes.
Mhm.
You're not good enough. You're all this, and it's not coming most of the time is not coming from a place of, ill will or
Mhm.
hurting you. It's coming from their own trauma, right?
Mhm.
So it
Right.
yeah, so it leads into this stuff. But
Yeah.
yeah, so enough about me.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
What about the piece of what you're discovering is, and by the way, this is brave. This is very brave for someone in general to do something like this, right?
Thank you.
And that's just how it is, you know? I mean, if you're willing to step up and just share your story and still be going through it as you speak, in different ways. That's very brave. So I wanna honor that about you.
Thank thank you very
Yeah,
much.
you're welcome. You're welcome. And so how do you think then that with everything that you went through with your dad and your mom and all of the, situations and things that came up for you when you were a child and growing up, how do you think that experience shaped your work and or your what you how you look at the world or what you bring into the world?
Well, as I was preparing today, I realized that, one of the things that my dad passed down to me was a personality disorder, and, I think he was probably a narcissist, but, what I ended up getting was a borderline personality disorder, and I just learned of this recently. Apparently, this has been diagnosed for a long time, but, then I started to look at the description and said, "Well, yes, that's me." I'm irritable. I take offense easily. I My moods shift all through the day. I kind of have trouble knowing exactly who I am because my moods shift and my self-image kind of shifts too. And I guess with the anger, that's part of not see again, not manipulating people. I don't use people. That's not it. I I get kind of lost in what I'm trying to do and just let other people's needs kind of fall to the side, and that has resulted in some pain for them and, also for me. I've noticed also that, when, one of these crashes happens, I, feel the pain of crashing, but I will generally feel also the pain of regret because it is then that I start to see what I have done, and in fact, I think it's the regret that causes me more pain than the failing. It is very hard to look back on your life and to see such things. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds I hear you. I hear you. And know this. Um the work I do aside from the podcast is I'm also I call myself a master space holder of space.
Mhm.
And I help people walk through trauma and grief and, just try and figure things out. So I'm coming from that perspective. I'm coming from my own personal, journey. And then I've also, through learning about that and generational trauma, I learned, this other stuff. So I'm sharing this stuff with you. So you can hopefully feel a sense of understanding who you are because there's a truth underneath what you see with the personality or which tell me again which personality disorder.
It's borderline personality
Borderline.
disorder. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
particularly rough one to do. Go
But
ahead.
here's the thing. I mean, it's a diagnosis. It's not who you are,
Right.
right? And so who you are is a human who makes mistakes
Yeah.
and you're you're coming on a podcast to talk about this.
Mhm.
Like who I've never had anybody come on and do this before. That's why I said it was brave because it's like I feel like it's giving both of us an opportunity to shift a little bit because I'm used to kind of asking the questions and not guiding the questions, so to speak. So
Mhm.
for
Mhm.
you to be able to sit there and receive, I have to say that there's like you have the desire, you have the capacity, you have the ability, and you have the conscience that most borderline personality disorder people do not.
Thank you.
So, yeah, you're welcome. Because 'cause I've lived with people like that. I've lived with narcissists. I've done that whole thing, and they don't have most of them do not have a conscience, and they
Mhm.
don't see what they're doing. You're sitting here in front of however many people end up watching at this point, right? And it's okay.
Mm.
Yeah. I do stuff like that too. It's like, why not?" Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta use my hands, gotta use my hands.
Yeah, yeah. So, but the thing is that you're admitting it and you're sharing it and you're healing it. And then
Mhm.
not only are you human and you make mistakes, but you are also and I have to admit, I learned this I watched this guy and maybe it'll help, I mean, I watch Panache Desai and he has some amazing he does this or monologue and meditation every morning at
Mm.
8:30 to 9:20 Eastern time. Sure, I don't mind sharing that with people
Mhm.
because it's helpful. It's been helping me. But what he talks about is not only are you human, but you're also love and your light and your presence and your essence. And then there's a whole nother part of being who we are, and that's infinity. Like we're connected to infinity. So no matter what we have going on in our lives, or we think who we think we are, has nothing to do with the fact of who we really are. Like if you notice the, byline of my podcast, do you remember what it is?
No, I'm sorry, I don't.
It's uncover the truth of who you are.
Yeah.
That's the point. That's the point. And you're here, wherever this takes you after something feels like it's sitting with you and hitting you in the right places, so there's so much um beauty on the other side of knowing that and accepting the fact that you're human.
Mhm.
And you didn't do this, your dad, because of his trauma,
Exactly.
right? So
Right.
it's not something that you like if you're blaming yourself, which I used to do that too. If
Mhm.
if you get angry with yourself about and not only, regret, it's going to cause more pain. But when you start to accept the fact that you're human, it slows that down.
Mm. Okay. Say that again, please, Carolyn.
Gosh, that was a download. Okay.
Okay. Let's move on then.
I mean,
Let's move on.
basically is as you work through and accept yourself as a human, it becomes an opportunity to be okay with who you are.
Yeah.
And then you don't have to accept that diagnosis because
Mhm.
that's someone else's opinion of what they see looking in.
Right. Right. I see that. I see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just learned of this a month ago. Yeah, and, it's kinda been rolling through my head. It's not I mean, the diagnosis is one thing, but I went through the list of, characteristics, and that was the thing that got me. It's not, "Oh, this is named thing." It's the particular things that go with it, and it was just one, like, "Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, uh-huh." And that was difficult. I it didn't I guess when things were explained, when I can say, "Well, this doesn't forgive anything, but I want to explain," in your back of your mind, you kinda hope it will forgive a little bit, but the reality is what you've done, and, people are gonna be angry if you've hurt them, they're angry, and, I don't begrudge them that. I don't feel they shouldn't be angry. Um, I've done what I've done, and they've lived through it. So, yeah, that's hard to think about. It's
Yeah.
hard to think about.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I get it. I get it for sure. The other piece of that too is when you finally recognize, like, when someone sees you a certain way, it's really hard to accept it at first because your ego is protecting you.
Mhm.
So it's like someone told me when I first started, where there's 6 inches between your head and your heart, right? It's the
Mhm.
longest 6 inches on the face of this planet, and I'm very analytical. And I used to always try and puzzle my way through my feelings, right?
Mhm.
And so they kept saying to me, "All right, you need to drop in here. You need to feel that." So there's a part of this where when you learn when I learned what I was doing, when I was opening up and listening and recognizing that there was a mirror in front of me of that
Mhm.
other person, because that's how we work as humans. We mirror each other. When I started to understand that, then I could be like, "Oh, okay." And then allow that information. The biggest thing about information is when you're aware of it, everything will start to shift,
Yes.
right?
Yes. As soon as you know something, it rolls back through your mind, it rolls back through time,
Yeah.
and it changes your
Yeah.
perceptions of yourself and of yourself in the past, of how you came to be who you are.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the next step from there is forgiving yourself for not knowing any better. And that's a
Yeah,
tricky one. That's
it
a
is hard.
yeah.
It is hard. It is
But if
hard.
I can do it, you can do it.
I'm hoping for us both. I'm hoping
Yeah.
for us both. Well,
Well,
you were looking for stories. Um, I have another story, and this one's more about, the, not my mom, say disappearing. She did become less and less present, and I remember my sister and I, we lived in a very large house, and it wasn't because we were rich. My dad had got the house for a low price, but there was a business actually in it. It was a daycare center in the first floor of that house. So there was this big empty space, in the evenings and on weekends, and, I remember my sister and I, and she's almost 9 years younger. So I was well into my teens by the time, she was, kind of working up to being a person. And we had, yeah, we had this really special relationship where, I don't know that I felt we were peers, but in a sense, we kind of were. We were, as I said, 2 kids trying to, raise ourselves, and that's extreme. It's not like, we were thrust out in the world, but I think both of us are pretty sensitive, and, it felt like that. That's what it felt like.
the sensitivity, I'm highly I don't know if you've looked into that aspect, of being a highly sensitive person. It sounds like you are one.
That may be. Yeah, I have
Yeah.
heard of that. I haven't looked into.
Yeah, there's actually a website called hsperson.com where you can,
Mm,
take a quiz that's like, I think there's 27 traits of a highly sensitive person,
mhm.
and I happen to have 26 of them.
Yay.
So, yay. So, and also too, being an empath. Do you know what an empath is?
I do. I'm actually pretty good at empathizing.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Well, with an empath, you can also feel other people's emotions and feelings. You can
right.
walk into a room and pick up on, right? So, as an empath, when we grow up, we're protecting ourselves from the emotions and all the chaos going on around us. And sometimes it blends and then we don't even know whether or not it's our own feelings or if it's somebody else's feelings. It
Hmm.
gets all mixed up in there because we can pick up on their
Yeah.
feelings so well.
Uh, I don't
So,
know that I've felt it that way. It's like kinda something I don't know if I can turn it on and off, it just kinda turns itself on, and when I'm talking with someone, and I will really kinda tune into them, you know, and, people will reveal things to me, and someone will say, "Wait, what are we talking about here? Why are you asking these questions?" And other people will just go on and reveal things, and I will listen, and, as you said you do hold space, and, I don't know what effect that has on them. I don't know what value it is for them, but, it does, to me, as you were saying, create feelings that are not my own, which may be, one of the things that but borderline personality disorder is, not having a real solid self of sense. sense of self.
Sense of self, yeah.
So, yeah, so maybe that was a way to have a sense of myself.
Well, yeah, and it sounds like it, and if I were to, be bold here and diagnose you, I would probably call you an empath before I would call you borderline personality disorder. You just didn't know what to do with it.
That may
Just
be.
just throwing it out there, you know?
Okay.
Yeah, it's
I
something
will
to
look
think
into that.
about.
I'll
Huh?
look into that. If that can
Okay.
make me feel a little less regretful, that would be pretty
Yeah.
helpful.
Yeah, well, I mean, and the thing is that a lot of us empaths showed up in houses that were over the top chaos
Mm,
because the point of us being here is to recognize our truth, our light. We're here to hold space for people. That happened to me all the time. People would just open up and tell me their entire life story, and I'm like, when I was younger and I didn't know, I was like,
mm,
um, why is this person telling me all this stuff? And then I
mhm,
got used to it, and I'm like, "Uh, it just happens, right?" So that's your gift. And you can come in when you work on yourself and you let all the if you when you forgive yourself and let all of that like not good enough
mhm,
holding on tight because it's the only thing that you think is going to help you because it's
mhm.
not. Take that one from me. When you start letting go of all that stuff, then you can start
Mm.
moving into your truth and being your truth.
Mhm.
Does that make sense when I
Yeah,
say that?
it does because recognizing, as you're saying, recognizing, that I have certain capabilities, does allow me to kind of let go of some things and, um, acquire other things. I mean, one of the problems I have in thinking back on my life is that I tend to think of the things that I did wrong, and I did plenty of them, and I forget the things that I did right or, the kindnesses that I did.
Mhm.
Even to people who I hurt, I did I was kind in a lot of ways. So, yeah, that makes it kinda difficult, just that little aspect. One of the things I wanted to talk about was, someone I never had in my life was a wise older person to kind of normalize things to say to me, and I wanna say what I would say if I were that person, who was, the older person, the wiser person, things that I would say to that child, and I think the first one, as I was writing this out, it just surprised me. Thank your parents often for their love. And this is my dad who is, making my life hell. And my mom she loved me tremendously. And I kind of, made that difficult for her, but, and then she kind of faded away. But I don't recall really having a relationship with my parents. I'm kind of, I don't know. But yeah, that was something that really seemed important to thank your parents often because they love you very much and they're doing the very best they can.
Mhm.
And that message would have been really helpful. And then the second one is that your life is not normal. Your father does not know who you are. He doesn't mean to hurt you. It's okay to feel hurt. And that's that it's okay to feel hurt. That was a message that I really wish I would have had because I felt all kinds of hurt, and then I felt like, well, that's not the way it's supposed to be because everything's normal. How how could I feel hurt? So, I just kind of ended up twisting myself.
Mm.
And the next one, there's 5 of these, is, trust your feelings. Your heart will not steer you wrong. And you were talking about, being kind of, feeling or thinking about things when you should be feeling. Was that what it was? You were thinking
Yeah.
instead of feeling?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and I've had that problem too. I tend to get into my head when I should be letting my heart lead, and not talking in a romantic sense, but just in a sense of that empathy in action, not just in conversation. That's something I wish I would have been able to trust my feelings on. Um, yeah, that would have been good. And then the next was to let my mother
Let
love
me
me. Go
James, let
ahead.
me throw I wanna throw something in with that one, though. You did the best you could with what you knew.
Mhm.
So, because you didn't know it, it doesn't mean that you can't do that now for yourself.
Right.
It's never too late to
No,
do
no,
that.
it's not.
Okay.
I'm just looking back on my life and thinking how it might have been different if there had been somebody
Oh,
to
yeah.
tell me these things, but
Right.
there was never any wise person to look to.
Well, guess what?
Yeah,
Who's the wise person now?
right. So I have to be the wise person for myself.
Yeah, and you
Yeah.
get to be your mom. You get to reparent yourself, and you get
Mhm.
to be your mom and be that wise person who you wanted her to be, and
Yeah.
use the information that you wanted to hear from her, and just say it to yourself.
Mhm.
And same with your dad.
Yeah.
Like, "I'm proud of you, son."
Yeah. You know?
I'm sure that didn't happen much, if at all.
No, not much.
Yeah.
Not much. Yeah, I'm just thinking through back through time. I have a fair amount of time to think back through. So,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, I'm gonna move through these quickly. That was let your mother love you, and the last one was bear up the best you can, because time will bring change, and it won't always be this way. And I
Bear
think
up
that
the best you can. What's the
bear up,
last?
just like uh, be strong, be tough. Don't let it grind you down. You know, to the best of your ability, just be strong and stay stay true to who you are as far as you can feel it, because there was that earlier one about trust your feelings. And I think that's a difficult message maybe for a child, but it's a good one that when you're feeling hurt, you are being hurt, and you just have to accept that for now, because time will bring change. Time will bring change, and it won't be like this forever.
Mhm.
So those are the things that I wish that somebody would have said to me, and I guess as you're saying, they're things that I should be saying to myself now.
You could be. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
and that's the thing, like, sometimes, like, when you said "bear up," that I think that's why I asked the question, because I'm wondering, one of the things that I learned is, um, I did that for a while, and I felt like I was hurting myself by doing that. Um, what I did learn later after doing that was, being gentle with myself, because the gentle part is the part that we miss from parents like that.
Mhm,
We
mhm.
don't get that nurturing. We don't get that
Right,
feeling of love.
right.
Right? So
Mhm,
when we're bearing, we're like, that's a protective thing. Like, we're getting ready for
mhm,
the next hit to show up, or the next
mhm,
shoe
mhm.
to drop, or
Right,
whatever. But
right.
as an adult looking back at that little boy or that little girl, it's like, I'm sorry you went through all that. You didn't deserve
Yeah,
that.
right,
You didn't do
right,
anything
exactly.
wrong,
No, 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 no.
right?
Not no, not as a child. I mean, it is done
Right.
to you. It is done to you, and,
Yeah.
I guess as an adult, it's hard to accept that because I guess I'm carrying with me that being done to me. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're saying a lot of things that are really helpful to me, Carolyn.
Oh,
Um,
good.
I appreciate that, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's important that you and other people understand that, you know, we're perfect,
Mm,
not in a perfectionism kind of way, but we're just
mhm,
perfect as humans.
mhm,
And like I said, as children, we didn't do anything wrong. We didn't know any better. We were
right,
trusting the people, the adults around us, which is where I came in with the self-parenting piece. Because
right,
if you're trusting
yeah,
a depressed mother to nurture you,
mhm.
you already know that's not going to happen.
Yeah,
Right.
that didn't work out. That
It
doesn't
didn't
work
work
out.
out so well, but guess what? You have an opportunity now to do that. All of you,
Yeah,
whoever's listening to this, you have an opportunity to do that. And the fact that James is opening up and sharing this is like, it's giving me a chance to hold that space for him and for you, to know that there's nothing wrong with you. No matter what anybody told you, it was basically a lie. There's nothing wrong with you, and we took all that stuff in, and it came in from all different directions, from family, from school, from
Mhm.
maybe religion, from society, so we're being hammered with the fact that we're not good enough and we're these awful, awful people. And we're 5 years old, and someone telling us,
Yeah.
oh, you're wrong, you're bad. And that's not true.
Yeah,
'Cause
no,
you're
it is not
5.
true.
How do
Right,
you know? You don't come into the world knowing the answers to everything. You come in feeling everything around
right,
you,
right,
right? Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah. That's beautiful, James. You had now the list of things that you gave. How does that relate to this sorting game that you had mentioned earlier? Where did
Mhm.
that come from?
This is something that has come to me fairly recently as I was thinking about my work and thinking back how where that came from, and I realized I've spent a fair amount of time in my life kind of at the bottom. And so I've kinda learned a little bit, not of a guidebook, but some wisdom about what it's like to be at the bottom.
Mm,
And one of those things you mentioned the sorting game is something that has come to me, and it's not I mean, this is not, some psychology thing that is tested out. It is not something I'm handing you as like, "Go do this." It is a bit of wisdom from one person, from his own experience. And that is that, the things you have at the bottom one is, oh, I've lost track now. One is the things that you've lost. Things that you've lost. The sorting game is when you take your regrets and your pain and, you know, the badness of all the things that have happened and have put you at the bottom, and you start to sort them. And there are 4 basic categories that work for me. And the first of those is things that can't be changed. For me, that has been relationships that have bombed. And, in some cases, it was not so much me, and in some cases, it was pretty much all me. But regardless of who did it, it's over. It's not recoverable. And the next thing is things that, you can recover, maybe. I mean, you can, say you're sorry. You can go to someone and ask forgiveness and hope for that they will give it, and that you can begin to build something again with that person. And I'm not talking about, rebuilding a relationship, though that could be what it is. Mostly I'm talking about not having terribly bad feelings, not having hatred between each other. That's what that is. And the next thing is what I call things that you can't fix. And this is parts of yourself that, and this was a hard one to accept, parts of yourself that are just going to be that way. Yeah, and you just realize, "I'm gonna make that mistake again. I'm gonna make that mistake a lot, and all I can do is know it's gonna happen, and if I can catch it when it's happening, I can do something then, but often I will just see that I've done it, and I will have to say, 'I'm really sorry,' and every time I say I'm sorry for that person, well, that's the first thing. That's not an iteration. You just did that to them. So, they can't feel, sad for you. They just feel hurt. So that one, and then the last one is things that you actually didn't do. As you sort through this, things you were feeling bad about, and you gradually come to find, well, that is actually not something I did. That is something somebody else did to themselves, or something they did that might have kind of set this situation in motion. So those 4 categories tend to, cover all the things that were bad in my experience, in how I process the pain of something falling apart, typically a relationship falling apart. Yeah, so that is the sorting game. And
that's
I brought
interesting.
the the sorting game came up when I was thinking about, the bottom because, spending a lot of time at the bottom. You think of what do I do? What do I do there? And with the sorting game and the bottom itself, realizing that this is beginning of building.
Mm,
And I say building because it's not recovery. I think that's not a real good model for how you come up again from the bottom. You're not If you want to recover, then you get to be where you were. I've recovered. I'm better. I'm just the way I was, only a little better. Um what I wanna think of as building new. What kind of life am I gonna build new for myself? So
Mhm.
that's what the bottom is about. It's about recognizing at the beginning, recognizing what you can't do, what you shouldn't do anymore, what doesn't work out. And then gradually, as you work your way upward, it becomes positive shapes, things that I aspire to the person that I want to become. So that is why the bottom is kind of a foundation. It's the thing that shows you at the beginning, these are the things to avoid. And you can build your bridge to your new life using those things. Then that's a good foundation.
Mhm.
And
Yep.
I think the last, I'm going on as a monologue here. Go ahead. Did you want to say?
No, I want people to hear you as you're talking because what's happening right now is that I'm feeling is in real time, you are showing your process that's working for you. And a lot of times we'll share our process that works for us, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to work for somebody else. But I think it's really cool that you are able to express what that is in real time in your healing while you're in your healing journey. Because I'm telling
Mhm.
you right now, I would have never been able to do this when I was going through my healing journey. I was too busy. Have you ever heard of the dark night of the soul?
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
so I was too busy screaming and gnashing of teeth and, hollering and letting go and expressing and all this
Mhm.
stuff to even consider being able to come up with something that was
Oh,
helping me. I had mine was a 20/20 vision looking back, hindsight.
process things differently because
Yeah.
the darkest night of the soul that I had was after a relationship where I treated a woman especially badly, and it was not physical and it was not abusive in terms of calling her things, but it was in terms of neglect and letting her deal with things that I should have been there to deal with her. All right. Carolyn, you were talking about the way you deal with being at the bottom and had just everything caving in on you. And I think you were speaking like emoting, like putting everything out and just, blah. And I think my way of doing it is almost the opposite of that. I just internalize it all. Because I remember if this very bad time, I was working. I was a copywriter in an advertising agency, and I would go in, and I just was who I was, just my cheery self, and did everything. And I would come home, and I would put my things down, and I would cry. And this happened for about a year. Every day, just come home and cry. And it wasn't for, I wouldn't didn't cry for hours, but it'd just be, for a good, 5 minutes or so, enough that it was really notable.
Yeah.
And that was how I processed it. That was, that kind of grief, and I that was when I started putting things in their places, things I could realize that, okay, this is over. That relationship is over. These things that I did, that's over. In this particular case, there was no recovery of that relationship. So I had to let go of that as well. But yeah, it was just that kind of sorting out that was really helpful. And that was also the time I realized, um, yeah, I'm gonna be selfish. I'm just gonna be selfish, and there's not a lot I can do about that. I can catch it as soon as I can catch it, but there's another story I wanna tell, and this is
Well, before you go into your story, what
yeah.
do you mean? Because when I hear you say that you'll be selfish, that's actually when you're in your healing journey, that's actually a good thing to be selfish. Because then you
Oh,
focus on your healing. It's like putting the mask on the plane
mhm,
before you put it on somebody else. That's what I hear you say when being because we when we focus on ourselves first,
mhm,
then we're being kind to ourselves and we're moving through whatever it is that's happening, but it's not the same kind of selfish, like, I don't know, people have made this interesting, description of selfishness
mhm,
because I mean, basically what I'm trying to say is, for me, when selfish happened, if I was trying to focus on myself so I could heal, everybody else would get upset with me because I didn't have time to focus on them, and which I did my
mhm,
whole life was focus on them to make sure that they were okay, and then when I
mhm,
finally figured out that I was doing that too much or at all, that's when I started to actually learn how to focus on myself and learn how to be selfish and treat myself
Mhm.
better first, and then I could be available for other people. So that's what I hear
Yeah.
when I hear selfish. Yeah, so I'm
Yeah.
curious as to what that would be.
Well, I recall another relationship in which, I thought I was being this giving, generous person, and in the end, I was being almost manipulative, and, that ended very, very badly, and I was, sent into a tailspin again, but, the woman identified it very accurately that and how I had been selfish, and so I had to deal with that, and that, of course, was unrecoverable. There was no way of repairing that. Yeah, so that's the kind of selfishness I'm talking about.
Yeah,
And there
I think I understand that because 'cause I've been in relationships like that, been in relationships like that. And uh I wanna say that if you're recognizing it and this is where the self-forgiveness piece comes in, it's in your past, there's nothing you can do about it, but you're recognizing it. And like Maya Angelou
Mhm.
said, "When you know better, you do better."
That's
So,
pretty true.
if you didn't know better at that time, I mean, it's just stuff to look back on, and it's stuff to give yourself grace for, it's stuff to, um, forgive yourself for, because again, the truth of who you are wouldn't do that. It's your self that was created by
Yeah,
life.
yeah,
That's the part that does it. So,
yeah,
but I understand. I mean, in a relationship, it's by not being, and I don't know, obviously, I don't know the full story, but by not being, or by being manipulative, I could see why you would say that you were being selfish because you were probably more focused on whatever it is that you want. You correct me if I'm wrong, but more focusing on what you wanted. Um,
well, I felt I was giving and just being so kind and loving,
yeah.
and, it turned out that I was really kind of wanted to see a picture of myself being that way,
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
and
I know. I
I
know that
wasn't
guy.
actually giving. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'm afraid, Carolyn, that for a lot of people, for a lot of women, I probably am that guy, and all I can do is say, "I'm very sorry for what you have been through." The guy who did that to you may not have known what he was doing. That doesn't make it okay, but, he may not have known what he was doing.
And I totally get that. I respect that, and I appreciate you saying that because, I mean, women do need to hear that, especially from, men who have recognized that they've done it. I mean,
Yeah,
it's not easy for men to recognize that sometimes. It's just because, and it's not your fault. It's how you were raised. You weren't
yeah,
raised to recognize that kind of thing. Oh,
yeah, that's true. That's true.
yeah.
Done with that.
Done. Well, we're done with that. That's
Done
fine.
with that.
Hi
Yeah,
there. Okay,
yeah.
we're done. So I'm going to ask this other question. I'm curious as to what you mean by this one. So
Mhm.
is it really better to take more blame or responsibility than is really yours?
This is one that I learned in that major crash when I was crying every day, and that is, um, I turned I took blame and turned it into responsibility. I mean, if you take
Mm,
blame will kill you. I mean, blame is just too much. And when I wrote that, I was still processing through how do I talk about this? How do I talk about this? And it's responsibility because then I can look back and say, I was responsible for that and I didn't do what I was supposed to do. Or
mm,
I was responsible and I did something else. And that set up a situation where things turned this direction. And that's one way of being responsible, but the point of responsibility is that you are able to respond, that you are able to affect the outcomes of things, and that is where you wanna be because blame is all about the past,
mm.
who did it, and responsibility is being about able to respond, able to see what's going on, pay attention, and do things in a more useful way. And I have to say, I've kicked myself down over and over and over. You never learn all of it, but that is what I try to do. I try to take on, perhaps a little more because I haven't figured out yet what is mine and what isn't. And, I spent all that time in pain. And I'm not, not again, not trying to, "Oh, poor me." That's not it, but I spent time there, and that was one of the ways I sorted things out, was to have taken more than my share. So, that feels like something important to me. It
Mhm.
feels like something important because, it helped me. I said, again, one guy, my experience, but that is something I think is helpful.
And again, that's very brave and strong. I mean, it takes a strong soul to take a look at that and admit it. Trust me, none of the men that I was with would come out and say any of this stuff. So hearing that, the women out there, I mean, this is the fact that he's being vulnerable in and of itself is it's honoring. It's like, how does this work? I don't know, I
Mhm.
didn't personally experience the vulnerability piece of this and the recognition piece of it. So for you, from me, it's I feel like you're doing the right thing for yourself first.
Mhm.
And then by being vulnerable, in your own like, looking at your own mistakes, looking at your own past, taking responsibility for it, and not blaming yourself or anybody else, I mean, that's and then saying it out loud, it's like,
Yeah.
"Wait, okay, who's this guy?"
Yeah.
Right? So that's
Yeah.
a good thing, you
It
know?
is a good thing, and,
Yeah.
it's it's hard won, but again, no matter how good this might be or helpful, I'm not trying to escape blame. I just wanna be really clear about that, and if it does help somebody understand, if it helps a woman understand, um, why the guy did those kinds of things, well, that's good, if then that maybe can let you put some things to rest, that maybe it wasn't done specifically to you, it was done specifically because of what he was thinking. I don't know. I don't know people's situations. I guess I
Ye
have to kinda stop on that.
but that's not no, I mean, because in general, men are not allowed, at least our generation. I'm not sure how the younger generation is now because they're very different than we were, but from our generation, men were not allowed to feel their pain. Like, you guys had to be strong and, whatever, you're not allowed to cry.
Mhm.
You're not allowed to
Yeah.
you're not right? So you
Mhm.
push all that stuff down, and so when you're feeling pain, there's no outlet because the crying or the whatever is an outlet, and what ends up happening with most men who are in that situation is it goes from anger to rage. Instead of releasing it because you're taught, well, if you cry, then you're this or you're that. I'm not going into the words that are used because I we don't need to do that, but that's not true. I mean, we all crying is a chemical release. That's all it is, right? And so
Yes.
for men
Yeah.
of generation to have been taught that deprived you of your humanity. It deprived you of being able to feel, and so
Mhm.
the only thing that you could feel was anger and rage. You couldn't feel sadness. You couldn't feel
No.
the let's say the feminine aspect of yourself, which is
Mhm.
more nurturing and more caring and more none of that because you're taught to be tough and to protect the woman, but you're not protecting
Right.
you're doing that kind of stuff,
No.
and it's not your fault. That's the thing. It's not your fault. This
Yeah.
is trained by society, right?
Yeah, set up for failure.
Set up pretty much.
Set up for
Absolutely. And
failure.
I just want men out there who are listening to this that, it's helping me to hear James talk about being vulnerable like this because I believe that when men can come back to center and recognize who you are as a human, your your place in society, like, and women are still trying to figure out their place because we've also been kind of shoved in a different direction, expected to be a certain way, and it's not who we are either. But with men and women to be able to come back center and know who we are and accept the fact that we're human and go through the process of understanding that even though we're human, we're also infinite. And we're
Right.
also all that other stuff that I had mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
We are all of it, right? And to be able
Yeah.
to be aware of that and accept it also creates a level of understanding and love. And when you recognize that in yourself, you can recognize that in everybody else. And you're going to more recognize, like, wow, that person's gone through a bunch of crap like I did, and they're just
Mhm.
doing the best they can, or
Yes.
whatever that is. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so that's why it's important for men and women and men to do this work, to be able to come back to center, to understand who we are, just to you know, we were taught, we were programmed how to be this way. It is not,
Yeah.
as children, it's not our fault. As adults, as James is showing, you know, real time,
Yeah.
taking responsibility for our behaviors and recognizing that it's not the way it could be and it's not the truth. That's big stuff. That's why we're here. That's why this podcast is here.
Yeah.
You know? So I'm really grateful for the fact that you are so, like, you're not you're not my typical interviewee where we don't, like, walk through the actual real-time stuff. And the fact that you're doing that is really cool.
Thank
So
you.
absolutely. I know. It's like, take a breath. You're probably holding your
I'm
breath for the past 45 minutes. So just take a breath, because I'm no better than you. We're the same. We're the same. We both bleed red. We both
yeah.
make mistakes. Doesn't
Mhm.
matter who we are, man, woman, or any other gender, or any other color, or any other culture, or
Mhm.
whatever. It's all the same. We all go through the same stuff,
We do.
you
We
know?
do.
And it's time that we just start recognizing there's an underlying truth that we haven't been paying attention to, and now we
Mhm.
can.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You know, I like to say to any men watching, you know what you did wrong. Um, you just have to accept that. Uh, and
And
if you
forgive
can,
yourself for it.
well, ask for forgiveness and
Uh,
forgive yourself.
yeah.
But just you know what you did wrong, and that's the first step is accepting that.
And when you recognize what you did wrong, or if you did, when you recognize that, you're also giving yourself an opportunity to recognize that you made a mistake also.
Yes,
And
that is right.
mistakes, you know, it's just accepting the mistake and recognizing that it's okay to make a mistake. I mean, if you hurt somebody, you do what you need to do to rectify that piece of it, but you made
Mhm.
a mistake. So, and you can't hold somebody hostage in a mistake, because we all make mistakes.
No, no, um, no. People have to let it go, regardless of whether you did it or it was done to you.
Mhm.
If you live in the past, you're living in the past,
Right.
and
And
that
then
doesn't work.
grieving it, whether you did the thing or it was done towards you.
Right. Well, and grief, I would never try to interrupt that or say that that's bad, but grief has a time, and to kind of mull things over and, just stay on the same place too long, that's not good. That's living in the past.
Right. Exactly.
That's no
Exactly.
good.
Yeah. So, James, I'm going to ask you some questions that I ask all of my guests. This was really
Okay.
cool. Um, if you could offer one piece of advice to someone just starting to notice they need something to change in their life, what would it be?
One thing, open up. If you're looking for help, choose who you're gonna open up to and be careful about choosing, but really give it. Really tell it. Don't try to hide things. Say, I can just reveal this much of myself. This is the problem. I just want to talk about the problem. if you knew how to solve it, if you knew what the problem was, you would have solved it already. That's not why you're there. So find someone to trust and open up to that person.
Mhm. And I'd like to add one little thing to that. That's absolutely the case. Make sure that they're a safe person for you. The
Oh,
trusting, yes, and they have to be safe.
yeah.
Because, like, when you're grieving and someone tells you, "Oh, it's okay, you can stop crying," that's not safe.
No,
So,
it's not. And it's
yeah,
a hard determination. Who should you trust? But just as
you'll
I was
figure it
saying to
out.
them, you know who they are. I
Yeah,
mean, deep down, you know who they are
yeah,
because your heart will tell you.
right, and the more you open up, the more you're vulnerable, the more you do your healing, the more these people will start coming around you. So, I
Yes.
I have such a different group of people in my life now than I had in my past because of the healing that I did, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's so they will show up. Just keep going. That's what the universe
Yes.
told
True.
me 8,000 times. Keep going.
Yeah. They will gravitate towards you.
They will. They will. How would you define awakening?
Awakening. For me, awakening has been admitting, it has been accepting what I did, and that's awakening. I mean, coming awake to what happened, to what I did, good or bad, that is awakening. And not to just live with it hanging over me, to awake to it, to I can't say any better, Carolyn.
Mhm.
Um,
No, that's beautiful.
it is it is coming to terms because when
Mhm.
you come to terms, you have freed yourself to some extent to live in some sense a new life. You are
Mhm.
not the person you were before. So yeah, I'll stay with that.
Okay. Thank you. What do you believe soul divinity is?
Mhm. That's been changing for me lately. My concept for a long time has been that there is kind of a life to the universe, and we're all part of it. And the fact of I guess life and immortality is we die and but we don't remain like we don't go to heaven. We just kind of sink into this and become part of that life force.
Mm.
But lately, I've been having some rough times, and I'm kind of wondering whether there isn't some sort of I thou relationship with a more a more conscious God. So I don't know where I am with that, Carolyn. Divinity, I just don't I can't see myself as divine. I can't see that in myself, but I do see space. I do see the necessity of connecting one's inner self with the infinite. Um, if you don't have some sort of connection with the infinite, uh, well, I know people who don't, but maybe they do and they just don't know it.
Yes.
It's what can make you human. It's what can make you human. Yeah,
Yeah, which by the way is divine. So
yeah,
you're already there.
yeah. Well, okay. I do. I remember Joni Mitchell's song in Woodstock. She says, "We're stardust, we're golden," and I think about that from time to
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good song to think about in that way. Yeah, I never hmm. But we are. I mean, that's who we are. We're all made of
Hmm.
stardust.
Yeah. We got to get ourselves back to the farm. You know, it's highly metaphorical.
Yeah.
Place where things grow, a place of renewal.
Right.
Mhm.
And it's so deep and it's so simple. That's the crazy part. It's like being able
Mhm.
to float between the 2. It's,
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, James, how can people get in touch with you?
Um, I have a place where you can go to download uh, the it's kind of a booklet that talks about making mistakes and dealing with the bottom and working your way up from the bottom. And that is at tinyurl.com/scraps to sculpture because I'm a sculptor and this is about taking the broken parts and making something beautiful.
Uh-huh.
So it's tinyurl.com youtube.com/scraps to sculpture.
So scraps is SCRAPS,
Correct.
TO sculpture. Okay.
Yeah,
Perfect.
TO, scraps, TO sculpture.
Okay. I knew you were an artist. No, I knew it anyway, but now that I know you better,
Uh,
I knew you were an
you
artist.
found me out. You
I
found me
found you
out.
out. Too late. Is there anything else you'd like to share with the audience before we wrap up?
um, I wanted I want to tell a story about taking care of my dad in the last part of his life, but that's
Okay.
far too long. But, I do wanna say that finding something in yourself, if you have this borderline personality disorder, but whatever you have that makes you feel bad, if you can find some part of yourself that did good, um, allow that to stand as well. Allow that to stand next to what you have done badly, and try to find a balance between the 2. Yeah. Find the good, look for the good, because the bad can overwhelm.
Yeah, and
But
usually the bad is not we have more good than bad, and 1 or 20 good things, 1 bad thing can override 20 good things.
it sure feels like it, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah,
It sure
so
feels like it.
yeah, so just my thing about that, thank you for sharing that, is just cut yourself a break. You're human.
Mhm.
Allow yourself, and even if if you are diagnosed with something, then recognize that as a mirror and a doorway. It's not who you are.
Yes. Yes, that is true.
Yeah.
It's the naming of a way of being, and, your way of being is somewhat alterable. There are things that you're always gonna do, but there are things that you can change. And, know both, recognize both, so that, you work on changing things that really can be changed, and, just get ready to apologize for things that you're gonna keep doing.
Yeah, especially to yourself. Just saying.
Yeah, to yourself, that's true, that's
Yeah.
true.
So, James, thank you so much for sharing your journey with us today. You reminded us that even the loneliness that shapes our earliest years can become the ground where something new begins. To our
Yes, mm,
audience, may this conversation remind you that the place where your story feels like it's ending may be where a new one begins. Thank you for being here with us on Awakening Soul Divinity.
thank you too, Carolyn. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Click on one of the videos below to keep going on your healing journey. And don't forget to subscribe.